This is an open meeting, and there is posted right around the door there, the actual Open Meeting Act. If you would, we're going to ask that you stand with us, join us for a moment of silence, and as well, the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We do roll call now, right? All right, roll call.
Lange.
Here.
Merrill.
Here.
Clausen.
Here.
Murin. Moaning.
Here.
Faust.
Here.
File.
Here.
All right, and we're going to jump now to the special presentation and ask for the swearing in of Corey Granquist as the newly appointed City Council representative from Ward 1 with a term expiring 2014. Beth will do honors.
Raise your right hand, Corey. I, Corey Granquist,
I, Corey Granquist,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Nebraska
and the Constitution of the State of Nebraska
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I will bear truth, faith, and allegiance to the same,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or for purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or for purpose of evasion,
and that I will faithfully and impartially
and I will faithfully and impartially
perform the duties of the office of a Ward 1 City Councilperson
perform the duties of the office of Ward 1 City Councilperson
according to law
according to law
and to the best of my ability.
and to the best of my ability.
And I do further swear that I do not advocate,
And I do further swear that I do not advocate,
nor am I a member of any political party or organization
nor am I a member of any political party or organization
that advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States
that advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States
or of this state by force or violence,
or of this state by force or violence,
and that I, during such time as I am in this position,
and that I, during such time as I am in this position,
will not advocate nor become
will not advocate nor become
a member of any political party or organization
a member of any political party or organization
that advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States
that advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States,
or of this state by force or violence.
or of this state by force or violence.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Sign that, please.
With that signed elected official,
Welcome.
come join us. All right, we will move forward, and I'm going to look.
Roll call again.
Oh, we get to do roll call again now?
Mm-hmm.
We will do roll call again now.
Granquist.
Present.
Lange.
Here.
Merrill.
Here.
Clausen.
Here.
Murin. Moaning.
Here.
Faust.
Here.
File.
Here.
All right, now I'm going to look for a motion to approve the consent agenda as provided you in your packet.
I'll make the motion, Your Honor. Second.
We have a motion with a second to approve the consent agenda as provided. Please vote.
All council members voting in the affirmative.
All right, and again, approval of the full agenda as provided you in your packet.
So move, Your Honor.
Second.
Motion with a second to approve the full agenda. Again, please vote.
All council members voting in the affirmative.
All right, public hearing. Public hearing at the request of Kevin Signer, Off-Road Ranch LLC, for a zoning change from A Ag District to I-1 Light at 2900 Old Highway 8, which is continued from the June 16, 2014 City Council meeting. If you remember, That was at the request of citizen because of the issue of the weather that evening. So being continued, the public hearing remains open, and we'll begin. Kevin, do you want to come forward and speak to this first? Sure. Okay. Appreciate, again, you being willing to come back, and we'll ask you to state your name for us and sign in.
Kevin Signor. Hello, I'm Kevin Signor. I'm requesting a zoning change for the off-road ranch. This zoning change request came about 4 or 5 years ago. We started off with, as you know, when the pipeline came in, we built an RV park. And to me, there's a few phases of an RV park. It just all doesn't come together at once. And I've been to some other RV parks where, trees and landscaping, and that's part of it. Obviously, we had electricity and water. Recently, we added sewer to be a full hookup to roughly 15 spots, and we've done all the planning and organizing and approval from the state to continue to do so. A lot of RV parks have bar and grills where they do sell alcohol and off sale to people in the RV park. They sell charcoal, pop, ice, whatever. So that is one phase of the request of changing of the zoning is for a liquor license out there. And there also is another part to this, and it has to do with baseball and an indoor hitting facility, and I'll let some other people kind of explain that. They're here to speak on that. Yeah. So any questions?
Any questions at all, council? No? Okay,
Thank you.
thanks very much. Okay, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone else that wants to speak to this? If you'll come forward for us, I need you to state your name and sign in, sir, if you would.
I'm Ed Ferris. I own the property to the north, across the road. And they were supposed to stick to a rule of 9 o'clock at night, and they're still running at 9:30. I was out there the other night. I'm opposed to the liquor license because drinking and driving do not mix. I mean, they drive rough anyhow, which is okay. I mean, it's a track. But now add liquor to it. I don't think so. How about, I'm not opposed to the building. Fine, he can have a building, he can sit there and do something else, but how about a non-alcoholic clubhouse type of deal instead of having liquor out there mixing with driving? They've had one accident before involving a lady. Nobody knows what happened afterwards, but it could get worse. It can't really get better. That's about all I got to say.
I appreciate you being here. Any questions for Mr. Ferris at all, or comments from this body? Okay,
Thank you.
Anyone else that wants to come forward and speak? Again, if you will just state your name for us and sign in.
My name is Scott Magnuson. I'm here on behalf of the Norfolk Baseball, the Steel program. I actually coached the 9U program this year, and we're in support. Kevin was graciously going to possibly give us some land out there to build this indoor facility on. Being one of only Class A towns in the state of Nebraska that does not have a hitting facility or an indoor practice facility, we feel that would be a great thing for our baseball program as far as for the younger kids all the way up through high school, Legion ball. the high school could, use the same facility, so. There's a lot of kids that would be able to use this from now until, my son being 9 years old, 9 years of use out of it, so that's why we're here to help support it. So,
Do you want to,
take any questions or whatever?
Scott, do you want to explain in any way that, is this something that is being done by the association? Is this Mr. Signor, or do you want to get into
This
that?
is, Chris Price has started a nonprofit organization called maybe Stacy can correct me, but it's called the Northeast Baseball Area Foundation. And he has filled out for his 501c3 to actually be a nonprofit. So this would be something that would be a nonprofit through us that, the kids could come out and use. And like I said, we were just trying to find a place to put the building, and Kevin was nice enough to possibly give us some land to put it on. So as a baseball club, sport, whatever you want to call us, we have been doing some fundraising as well, and that's how the building will be built.
Okay. I appreciate you being here and sharing with us, and I think that, you talked about the STEEL program, but it is Legion Ball that is completely encompassed in what the,
That is correct.
okay. I just wanted to make sure we all understood
Yeah,
that, so,
I mean, the actual, the
facility.
steel board would be kind of in charge of the thing, running it, scheduling
Okay.
practice times and all that, because you have to have somebody kind of,
Yeah.
run the building, so it's not an overflow of so many kids there at one time, so, someone's got to manage the whole thing, and as a steel board, that's what we would do, so.
Okay, all
Thank you
right.
for your time.
Any other questions for him at all?
Scott, do you have a problem if he has a liquor license, which I understand he has a liquor license, but changing it over, will you have a problem with that being out there with the kids?
For the most part, I feel most of the kids would be out there, between 6 and 8 o'clock usually is the time our practices are done. On weekends, it's, in the afternoon. I myself don't, there's obviously other places where kids are where there's alcohol, and I think it's, I just can't foresee any problems with, the kids being involved in that.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Good question,
Anybody
Councilman.
else?
Anyone else? Okay,
Thanks for your time.
Make a comment. Thanks for your hard work on this. It's something that our community needs. And you guys have worked hard to put this together, and thanks for helping them with the land and everything. It's a big deal. When you were saying about our community being a Class A community without a hitting facility, it's kind of crazy, but again, thanks for your hard work on that.
I'm Stacy Ertzner, and I don't know, maybe I can clarify some of the questions that Scott wasn't able to answer. Dr. Chris Price was actually planning on being here tonight and couldn't be, and we kind of talked about some of the things to mention, but like the Norfolk Area Baseball Foundation fully supports and is supported by the Greg Mefford Memorial Fund, which is what is funding the building. The Greg Mefford Foundation has been trying to locate land that would be conducive to traffic, would be, beneficial for all the kids in the area. It would include all of our Norfolk Little League, Norfolk Steel, High School, and Legion Ball would be included. So we're looking at over 500 kids potentially to use this facility, and we're hoping that it can continue to grow into, maybe more than just a facility, but a practice field for the kids. And because we have a lot of fields in town, and we have a lot of places to go, but there's not enough, not with the amount of kids in the program. So, and we really need the zoning change to be able to do this.
okay. Questions for her?
Just to clarify, I understood what you said, but when you said the Steel and the Diamond Dogs, everybody will be included to be able to go out there, they just have scheduled time?
Well, the Steel and the Little League program and the Legion and the high school programs will
Okay.
be. The Diamond Dogs have kind of been their own thing, so
Okay.
I'm not 100%, I can't really say
On that one,
they
okay.
will be or they will not be, but I know those for sure will be.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, again, thanks for being here and giving clarification. Anyone else that wants to come forward and speak to this?
Hi, I'm Lillian Bates. I'm the zoning administrator for Stanton County, and I want to thank you all for tabling this until this week, and that was of our disaster over in Stanton and Pilger. Just a few things I've got questions about and I'm wanting to point out. First of all, Stanton County is not against Mr. Signer's RV camping or ATV track. What we are concerned about is the alcohol sales on site at a full-time basis. With the application, it said the zoning change for number 10 was the use of adjoining properties. The application stated north, south, and east as industrial, and west was ag. My interpretation is the use around the property is all ag. The zoning justification, number 1, the comprehensive plan map, and when the ETJ was extended out into encompass this property, should not the future land use map been amended? I'm wondering what the comprehensive plan map says. Number 4, the reason for to allow the alcohol sales. At this time, he is receiving special liquor licenses for the events. Changing the zoning would allow full-time alcohol sales. Number 5, how conforms to the adjacent properties zoning? Applicant said the adjacent properties operate as industrial. Adjacent properties are ag. The closest industry is Green Fiber to the east, which is approximately a 1/4 mile away. Property located south of the Elkhorn River is zoned I-1 and is going to be used for storage and is located a little more than a 1/4 mile away. And what I interpret adjacent property is lot line to lot line. Number 6, the character of the area. The applicant stated the industrial and ag. Going with the assessor's office, 90% is ag and 10% is industry. With the City of Norfolk zoning regulations and for the intent, the I-1 district is intended to provide for manufacturing, storage, production, and associated retail activities. A lot of times zoning administrators will use the scenario, if you change the zoning tonight to allow, just because he wants to put alcohol sales on this property, here again, using a scenario, and he walks out outside the door and gets hit by a bus. Now you've opened up that property to allow some other heavy industry or light industry to come into this property. So just to change it to allow the alcohol sales, I would think about that one. Alcohol use at this site has been an issue in the past. Stanton County Sheriff's Office has been called to this site several times. Charges have been filed. With Madison County across the road to the west, people could cross the road and deputies could not do anything about it. The City of Norfolk Police or Madison County deputies will not respond to calls at this site. And then I go on to, does he need to have approval to have concerts at this site? The conditional use permit addresses ATV and RV camping. And then with they were talking about this baseball club and that. Just curious, this is something I just learned now. Do they have to change the zoning and allow a building to go for sports out there? That's my question. Is there any questions?
You raise a good question there. Are you
Because it
look-
may be no different than an ATV. He has racetrack out there. We're just putting up a building to allow children and young adults to go out and practice ball. It's not an industry manufacturing. It's not to do with storage, production, and associated retail activities.
Okay.
Thank you.
You bet. Any questions at all?
I don't have a question, but he has a liquor license already. So that's not really the issue, doesn't he? Or does he just send in for a special use every time
Yes.
he wants to?
Yes.
It's a
Okay.
special use
Right.
every time the
Every
Stanton
time he
County
wants to.
Commissioners allow the special liquor license every
Okay.
time. So this is, at that time, it's just for that event.
And it's Stanton County Commissioners? Okay.
Prove it.
It's
Go ahead,
Trent
Jim.
able to answer some of our questions or concerns that way?
You know,
Zoning?
I heard the one question that was asked, and I think probably you're right. We need to address that. Trent, do you want?
Mayor and council, on that question alone, I kind of had a feeling that question was coming, so I was looking here while we were, the closest thing that I found was a field house, which, the perfect definition of that by Webster's is something similar to what they're wanting to do. That is a conditional use permit in ag, and it's permitted in I-1. So,
Permitted in I-1, they'd have to request a conditional
and
use.
it'd be another cup for the playhouse in ag.
Which right now has 2.
Yeah, well, we're redoing all that. In fact, that's going through right now on the backside to renew, because he's, in August, his cups are up. So there has been a few changes to the next cup coming through the planning commission, so.
Okay. Stay tuned, is what you're saying. Anything else, Jim?
Well, the other question, though, as I understood what she was asking, is the only area where that facility would be allowed? I mean, would it be allowed in a C1 or some other designation that way? Basically, if we're defining it as a field house, according to the matrix anyway.
Councilman, it'd be C2A is permitted, C3 is permitted, BP is a cup, and I1 is permitted, and a cup in ag as well. And that's all it speaks to.
So it'd be a conditional use permit in ag?
Yes.
Even if the zoning stayed as is right now?
Yes.
It would be able to do as a conditional use permit?
Yes.
Any other questions or clarification for any of the council? Okay.
My name is Mike Unger. I'm the Stanton County Sheriff. I would be representing the law enforcement concerns that we do have. Nothing against Mr. Signer. I've known him for many, many years, but we have had law enforcement issues specifically out there involving alcohol. One involved Mr. Signer himself, where he was arrested on an alcohol-related offense involving a serious bodily injury, and he subsequently was found guilty of a lesser charge. My understanding that is even possibly in civil litigation right now. That's one concern. Other concerns, we respond there on a fairly regular basis whenever we have these events. Just a month and a half ago on a Sunday morning, we responded to a disturbance on a Sunday morning when the kids were out there running their carts. So, I mean, it is a concern. With the locale of it right on the Madison-Stanton County line, you know, I have a very small agency, and it tasks me very much so when we have any disturbance, let alone major disturbances. That's why I require uniform security at all of his events. And we've had that argument with him before about what is security. I require certified security, which generally is off-duty law enforcement. Because when you bring in a couple hundred to 1,000 people, I think you're well aware of what happens at divots. And I understand people get removed there quite regularly. It is a problem for us. As far as the jurisdictional issue, you know, it's quite clear. We can't enforce anything across that line. And the problem we have there is, you know, people, it's very simple for them to cause a problem in Stanton County and then flee. And Mr. Shukai knows quite well that that's created problems that the legislature's addressed with the 35-mile parameter as well as the felony parameters. But that's an issue. I've talked to the Madison County Sheriffs. I've actually sent Vern Yorth a letter to discuss this. I haven't heard back from him. And just a few years ago when we brought this actually up, you had a previous administrator. I was basically told at that time that the city of Norfolk would consider working some kind of an interlocal agreement, that if we had a major incident out there, we would be able to count on Norfolk Police, you know, to respond. But I'll be quite frank with you, that fell behind the wayside very quickly. I've never heard anything back. But, you know, those are issues that we'd be more than happy to at least look at with some type of interlocal agreements. But, you know, it takes everybody to do that, not just our side. But I do have a concern about alcohol. I think anybody that knows me knows that if you come to Stanton County with a drinking or alcohol-related offense, we're going to enforce it strictly. Nothing against Madison County or Norfolk. I think they feel the same way. But we have had accidents, quite a few accidents on Old Highway 8. We've had civil litigation that has stemmed from incidents at this off-road ranch. I think the off-road ranch is a wonderful thing in of itself, but alcohol is probably not something that we need to encourage or bring more forward. As far as the baseball, and talking just quickly to Laleen, it sounds to me like that's something that probably could be brought forward without anything to do with alcohol. So I would ask you maybe to consider that. I would agree that it'd be great to have some kind of facility out there. But if we're just trying to get a little support to get it out there, so we offer this apple to get some support, I don't know that that's the right way to do it. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the sheriff?
Thank you.
All right. Thanks for being here, Mike.
Hi, folks. I'm Jerry Weatherholt, Chairman of the Stanton County Commissioners. And I'm probably going to sound a little selfish here, but right off the bat, I see no economic benefit from this being set up in 200 yards from the Stanton County line. We've got a sheriff's department, and I might be repeating some of what Mike said. I have a little hearing problem, and when they're talking this way, I don't hear back there. But anyway, we have a sheriff's department that takes care of all of Stanton County. We do not have a police department in Stanton or Pilger or Woodland Park. They take care of all our Stanton County. And if we add something like this to our deal, it might very definitely cost us money because we might have to hire extra security people because of the bar. That's about all I got to say. If somebody got questions for me, I'll answer them.
Correct me if I'm wrong, sir. You are a Stanton County Commissioner, and you allow him to have his liquor license?
We've allowed, as long as he has security for the security of the event, why we allow him for temporary
Liquor license.
alcohol permit. But if it goes to complete all the time, it'll present a lot more security problems for us.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
When, I've never been out there to camp or anything, but if you're out there and you're camping, you're hooked up, is there alcohol allowed in the park?
I don't think so. It's not allowed. And that's another thing. Mr. Signer has mentioned that, and that he has had, he's put all those pads in there which is an economic, but it really, like I said, I sound selfish here, but being up there 2 miles out of Norfolk, our community, our Stanton community is not getting any financial benefit. Nobody drives to go to Stanton to buy groceries or anything like that. Thank you.
Okay, good seeing you. Nice to have you here. Anyone else that wants to come forward and speak to this? Wow. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good to see you in our community.
I'm happy to get back to my name is Bill Price. I have the security company that they hire. They asked me to come here to speak. Whenever they have a special event, I hire off-duty law enforcement, and we do take care of all the special events. And we have not had any problems. This is my 3rd year that I've done their big events. Obviously, I'm not there on a full-time basis. I do not go out there unless we're having a special use permit, a specific event. But they asked me to come up here to speak specifically to my experiences. We've had nothing but professional experiences with them. We've had no problems with the special events. As Mike said, and I've communicated with Mike specifically every time we've done this to know that we are there. If we've had any issues, we've called him in the sheriff's office to deal with any events, but we've not had any issues at the special uses that we've done. So he did ask me to come speak to that.
Okay.
Any question?
Any questions here?
All right, thank you.
All right. Anyone else that wants to come forth?
Hi, Kevin Signer again. I got a few bullet points here, I guess.
Sure.
Sheriff Unger mentioned something about litigation. There is no litigation from an accident a couple years ago. The zoning that we talked about, maybe having a different zoning where they can get conditional use permits, I highly doubt and I'm speaking for a couple people, and maybe they can come up and speak on their own behalf, having a conditional use permit, I highly doubt if they're gonna wanna put up 50,000, 100,000, 30 more thousand every year on a condition in 5 years, the whole thing could be pulled. I mean, it absolutely could be pulled. So I don't think they're gonna even take the risk of putting that amount of money on a conditional use permit. They can speak on their behalf, but I highly doubt it. The altercation that happened a month ago was at one of our races, sponsored, we're part of the Nebraska Motocross Association, and it was two older gentlemen. They were in the RV park. They were got in an argument because a couple kids out racing. Absolutely had nothing to do with alcohol. So I don't even know why that was brought up, but nothing to do with alcohol. And the last point I want to bring up as far as the financial benefit, we bring in, there's people that come to town to do paving jobs, different building jobs. We've had calls from the up-and-coming Nucor facility with the tubular company wanting to stay at our, so the financial benefit where it lies between our area, you know, it would, granted, we're in Stanton County, we're in Norfolk, at least, in my opinion, those guys ain't gonna go stay down in Columbus or stay down in Madison, and I support those other communities too, but the financial benefit is those guys staying out at our place. And again, a lot of the guys from the tubular have already contacted us, wanting to know if we've got camping spots, and so that's the benefit for our place. So, any questions?
Yeah, Kevin, in your RV facility, private property, if I pull my camper down there, there is no alcohol allowed?
It is allowed.
It is allowed?
It's temporarily your home.
Okay,
and
that's
so
what I thought.
it is allowed.
All right. So how do you wash the alcohol use against the RV, not the RV park, but the ATV stuff? How do you get people riding down there, right?
Yes.
Okay, so they can't drink and ride their,
There's no alcohol allowed on the MX track. The MX, we got 4 races a year. It's a family function. There's kids from 50 to 60 that race, and there's absolutely no alcohol allowed on the racing facility. It's separate from the RV park. I mean, it's not fenced off or anything, but it is separate from the RV park. The beer garden that we're requesting for a liquor license is fenced off completely. When they get done racing, the adults they have a campfire, and some may have some alcohol, some might drink water or whatever, but it is totally legal. They're not riding, they're not drinking and riding, and a lot of these participating in the races is kids 5 to 15 is the majority. There is some older people, up to 60, but you know, they're not out. There's no alcohol allowed out in the racing facility.
When you do have a special permit, do they put a limit of 9 o'clock, or is it different every time?
We've changed this, and I was gonna answer, I believe his name was Ed, and he said that there's somebody racing there at 9:30. To me, I think that's a conditional use permit issue that we're gonna have tomorrow morning. Trent can answer if he's had to call me for anybody racing out there after 9 o'clock. I haven't heard anything. I think if he would have received a call, he obviously would have called me. So I would rather someone call Trent and he let me know so we can actually take care of the problem instead of just letting it be.
Kevin, I got a question. How does having a full-time liquor license, how does that help us get a baseball facility there then?
It does. It's two different issues. It doesn't help us get a baseball facility. The zoning change allows us to get the baseball facility. Again, I don't think the Greg Mefford Foundation, with the amount of money they have, I don't think they're gonna build an indoor hitting facility on a conditional use permit. I wouldn't. I'm not gonna.
Because depending on the length of the conditional use permit, And I understand what you're saying there. I get what you're saying there.
It's
mean,
two
it's-
different reasons for a zoning change.
Okay.
Any other questions or clarifications we want from Kevin?
Is this, Kevin, is this bar and grill more of a off-sale liquor for the people that are staying there in their campers, or what is it? What's your target?
Really don't know what the target is, but I'm hoping some people that are staying at their RV park would come over, eat something, drink a beverage, water, pop, a beer, whatever. Well, I've just had an appraiser in there, and he asked, is that building open? We said, no, we're not allowed to yet. He's like, been a long day, I sure wish you were open, but I'll drive into town. Now, that's just one person, but that was said, so.
All right. Any other thoughts or questions before he sits down? Okay.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wants to come forward and speak to this?
Madam Mayor, you addressed about the conditional use permit and a time limit. We have done hog confinements that are $1 million units and that facilities, and they are given a 50-year time limit on it. These are with conditional use permits. The reason for the conditional use permit is to be able to put conditions on it, and you guys are all aware of that. So, you know, just because it's a conditional use permit, you know, I've had many facilities that are worth a lot of money that went with that, just because it's with 50 years or more. You know, you can put your own time on it, so, thank you.
You bet. Good point.
I was just gonna say something, but
Go ahead.
you don't address Sheriff Unger's concern about the interlocal agreement as far as helping with that, you know, if there are issues out there and he's short-staffed, what's that entail?
Well, I think Chief Miser can speak directly to that. I guess I wasn't aware of that, that discussion taking place. Mike, I didn't know that, so I apologize on behalf of the city that if we didn't have some follow-up there that we were supposed to follow up with, but we can sure follow up and have that discussion, you know. And I'm not an expert in interjurisdictional law enforcement and what that means, and exactly what it would entail, what the agreement, and what you're looking for, staffing and wise. I do know that our law enforcement officers are busy enforcing the laws of the city of Norfolk, all 24/7. So I would defer to Chief Miser as how he sees that, but I think it takes some formal discussion between the two chief officers there, and we can see if we can come up with some sort of solution there. I don't have any direct answer to that, Councilman, tonight, without looking at it.
I just one further comment, and I didn't plan on speaking again, but when Kevin brought it up about, one of my biggest concerns, and I wished I would have mentioned this right away, is how are we gonna stop the people from drinking and then getting on the track? Now, contrary to what he has told you, I will tell you as the Stanton Rescue Captain that last year we went to a gentleman that was very, very intoxicated on a four-wheeler, probably going 80 miles an hour, where he nearly severed his foot. I was on the call. I held his foot together. So it does happen, and I guarantee you that it happens more than that one time. That's one of my biggest concerns. How are we gonna stop them from doing that? I'm gonna have no ability to do that. It is private property. But alcohol does create those problems. That is in the Norfolk Rescue jurisdiction. They handle more of the rescue calls out there than we do, but we do get an occasional one. And then during the, you know, racing is somewhat dangerous in itself, and I'm not saying alcohol's involved in all their crashes, but it has been involved in some. And this one I can speak to specifically. And I don't know what the outcome of that gentleman, he was from Council Bluffs, but I'll guarantee you that if he would have been on a public roadway, he would have been arrested. And we've argued this point before with Mr. Signor, and Mr. Shukai knows what I'm referring to. The DWI laws in Nebraska do allow you to arrest people on private property now, but under certain circumstances, it has to have open to the public. And we've argued with Mr. Signor about his gates, you know, and things like that. We really don't want these problems. And the only way I can see alleviating that is, in all honesty, if you don't allow a continuous liquor license out there. When he applies for them, I don't believe he's ever been turned down. He's had to make some changes, but it works pretty well. At least we have some control over a Stanton County issue there. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else that wants to come forward and speak? Kevin, you might as well, okay, why don't you take the front seat there? That's
On the
fine.
zoning, I went to the fire station, and we know there's industrial to the south, which was the rendering, okay, and I'm not sure of all the legalities, I'm just going by what, and to the north of our property, there is, I think it's, there's a trucking company there that does maybe trucking and repair, and Green Fiber is down to the east of us, and actually part of my own property is already zoned industrial. Why, I don't know, but it is, so. Just want to point that.
Okay,
Okay.
all right. Any other thoughts, questions? Trent, anything you want to add to this? And no,
Mayor,
it's fine. I mean, I
I
just,
don't know if I can add anything. I can clarify a little bit on your I-1 that you're talking about. I don't know what years we took over that, but it looks like there was a 40-acre tract that was rezoned I-1, and I believe that was done in Stanton County before we took it. And then we grandfathered your I-1 in. That was Wortley Trucking at the time, and I don't know if they're still even there. But a lot of times when you rezone, it's easier to follow. You gotta, I mean, it's much easier to follow a 40 or a quarter or something. And I believe that's probably what the scenario was there, and you can speak to that, Lillian. And a portion of his property, there's a little triangular piece that is I-1 currently, but it's not where the bar is right now. So that little piece actually is kind of pasture area, I believe. And I don't know how many acres it is. I haven't done the calculation. It's a corner. So.
okay, thanks, Trent. All right, thanks, Kevin. Anyone else?
Well, it
No.
seems to me this is a,
Before you go,
Yeah.
can I, there is a letter that I need to read in that has been dropped off, and at the request of Mr. Dwayne Wolf. I own the property immediately east of the off-road ranch. As a farmer, I oppose changing the zoning status from agricultural to light industrial. As a neighbor, I oppose allowing Off-Road Ranch to open a bar and grill just down the road from where we live. I personally see no benefit to Stanton County, the city of Norfolk, or to me in having a liquor establishment out in the country. Only worries about what could happen if there was one. Sincerely, Dwayne Wolf. So, that being read in, and seeing no one else at this point, discussion.
well, seems like we have two issues here. One is how the, with Sheriff Unger's statement about being short on manpower and our staff being, busy also. That seems to me to be another issue that almost goes hand in hand with this. The other thing would be that we don't really know the extent of the bar and grill. We're up here, are we talking about a restaurant grill, or are we talking about a beer garden with some off-sale liquor, so it puts it kind of in a, where you almost, you feel like you just need a few more answers before you can make a decision on something that's gonna affect property owners around the area and somebody's business. So, again, that's just putting it out there. I don't know if we can get those answers tonight. Obviously, one of them we can, but I don't know, Kevin, you can provide some more about the nature of your business. That's where I'm at, I guess, so I'm just being open up here, so.
So I'm kind of with Shane. I mean, I don't have any reason to say no about his land change, because if it helps him, but for the liquor part, they need some control over it, and we don't need to control it, so that's, like you said, a separate issue, and if we could get them apart, it'd be nice, but to do the land and do a baseball thing and have a racetrack, I mean, I'm good with that, but complicating it with the other one makes it a little tougher.
I've taught youth sports for a long, long time, a lot of soccer, and I guess I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around having a practice facility for kids where alcohol is being sold. That's a recipe for, I think it's sending a wrong message.
All right, any other comments, or?
And again, Trenton, I gotta go back to you again, so, to do the facility, requires either I-1 or I'm looking for places where it's not a conditional use permit. From your matrix?
I think, Councilman, out there, in that situation, I don't know if I can put them in a commercial type of status there. Due to it being ag now, with a little bit of I-1 around it. And with a field house being that as a cup, I think it would probably have to stay as a cup. And either that or it's an I-1, and then it's outright permitted.
And then the next question that I had then was, and I keep going, okay, we're jumping to this alcohol, excuse me, alcohol sales, and I'm assuming that it is not allowed. Clint, this may be to you, it's not allowed in agricultural? Or I'm not sure how the two of these are being intermarried together that way.
Well, I think that my understanding of it is that when it's agriculturally zoned, they can get the special designated permit from the Stanton County Authority on a case-by-case basis. If it were zoned industrial, they can then make an application to the Nebraska Liquor Control Commission for whatever type of liquor license they might choose, and there's a multiple number of different types. So if they make that same application to the Liquor Control Commission, when it's zoned agricultural, I don't think they're going to, I think that they've got to, when they come through the zoning part of it, it's problematic for them, and they can't get that license.
And that is, I mean, if it were zone C3 or something along that line, they would still be able to do the liquor license. So, because we keep going, what I hear is discussion about what's it going to look like or how many is it going to serve. And I have to continually go back to the idea that, and the Stanton County zoning lady, and I got your name in here and then I blanked it on out, or I didn't blank it, it's on a note that way, reference that, zoning doesn't affect the building, zoning affects the land. And so really shouldn't care how big the building's gonna be or anything that lie, or if it's gonna be a 4-seat restaurant or a 500-seat restaurant and bar and grill, because the zoning carries with the land. As she noted, if he would drop dead going out the door, the zoning's still in place. It has nothing to do with him being the owner or whatever size of building that he's going to build on it, other than it has to meet the zoning conditions, so.
All right. Anyone else with comments or discussion here?
So there's currently special designated permits for alcohol sales? And you've never been denied one of those for any of the events that you wanted to have out there?
I was denied for St. Jude's fundraiser, yes.
Okay. But 9 times out of 10 has been an issue, okay. Have you done any projections, or do you have any percentage figures that you think having this bar and grill would raise your revenues? Have you looked at that?
Yes.
Okay. Substantial, light?
I consider it substantial, possibly. And can I make one comment on what Dick said? The heating facility is nowhere near the bar and grill building. You go to Norfolk High, right across the street, they sell alcohol. That facility is closer than what we are talking at my place. Just want to verify that.
Okay. I have a gentleman sitting next to me that wants to know if he can ask a question.
I think maybe that's kind of where I was going. In the materials in the agenda, I don't see, I see where it says the description of the property. I don't see anything in there that indicates what the area of the property is that's sought to be rezoned. Do you You know, Trent?
He was seeking the entire area, since that portion of all the land that he owns there. The cup that is currently there, his land, actually, part of it crosses into Stanton's area as well, so we are crossing boundaries there. They have allowed us to let the cup go over onto their zoning as well, so to speak, because it does crisscross right through his land there. So it definitely is. I know Sheriff Unger speaks to the county line being there, but the zoning line is actually right through there too. It's just in a different
And
spot.
the zoning line is in that area as well as everything else. It's always pulled to the exact 2 miles, but back to the quarter line.
Well, what we typically do, we'll follow lot lines. Here in town, it's easier to follow lot lines. We follow streets, roads. There's several ways of following it. Something that's permanent in nature. A quarter line is a great permanent in nature type of setting, how that was originally done, I believe.
The point that I was trying to make, and I haven't done a very good job of it, is when I look at the application, I see number 9, it's property area, which is blank. I don't know how much area is sought to be rezoned by this. And I don't know if it's 2 acres or a half an acre or 40 acres. I have no idea what that is. And I know that we're getting the liquor license business mixed up with it. When you license a liquor establishment, if it's a building or whatever, you have a licensed premises, which, probably isn't gonna be 20 acres. I don't know how big this area is.
I don't know if you can take 2 acres off of an 80-acre ag and make it industrial. If that was the case, that's how I would fight for it. But I don't know if you can or not.
Lelaine is saying she knows what this,
The acres that they off-road ranch is 78.58 acres. So just about 78 acres.
so we're not gonna have a licensed liquor establishment likely that covers 70 acres.
And addressing to the part to where, when the city of Norfolk took over our area and that, the highway.
Elaine, will you do something for me? Come forward so we make sure we're, no, that's all right. No, it's okay. We just need to get your voice
When
recorded
the
here.
city of Norfolk took over the extraterritorial jurisdiction and pushed out of that, the light industry was on the north side of Old Highway 8. That was a property owner there and that. So that was what was light industry in that. So follow what I'm saying? See, everything on the north side of that. So here when Norfolk took it over and made it into a 40, it took a little bit of a corner out of an ag area. I got a map here I can show you.
This is Dennis. If I'm looking at the map, I don't think that piece that's I-1 is in our zoning jurisdiction. I think that's still in Stanton County, even though our map's showing it as I-1 on both sides.
But currently 40 acres are already zoned I-1, so tonight would be a request for 38 acres. Correct.
Say that again.
Currently 40 acres are zoned I-1 now, is that right?
All of it. Oh, oh, you mean in this one?
Yeah. Of the 78 acres?
Of his 78 acres?
Didn't somebody make the
But
statement
that's not
earlier
what
that?
he's asking for,
I
is it?
know that, but and then there's be 38 acres left approximately of, okay.
The problem is in that we're trying to zone something that's in that zoning jurisdiction. Legal description they have.
I know, but not for the complete liquor license, right? It would be,
There is no liquor license.
oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. He's asking for a complete rezoning of the 78 acres, right, okay.
If he gets the liquor license,
Then
he then can
Right.
make an application
Right.
for a liquor license.
Right.
But it will never be that whole thing because there are too many regulations to close that whole thing.
Yeah, it just wouldn't be practical.
Yeah, I got what
You
you're
can
saying.
you can put it up on the screen, Mayor, if you'd like. Dennis can put the map up if you'd like.
Yeah, great.
Well, this isn't giving him a liquor license. He's gonna have
I
to
got
back
it.
and apply for it. It can
The liquor license.
come from us or
I
them.
got the zoning map ready to come
The
up.
liquor license comes, the liquor license comes from the Liquor Commission.
To us or them.
The liquor license is gonna
Oh,
go to.
go around that way? Okay.
Going to
All right, I
deal
stand
with
corrected,
issues
although the legal
surrounding a
description
liquor
we got
license
here
if there's an
includes
application
planned
made,
business.
just like Stanton County deals with the special designated permits when those are done.
To clarify that, the zoning change then enables an application for the liquor license.
That's my understanding.
Trent, you were at the planning and zoning meeting on this, correct?
Yes.
What was, I see it's an 8-0 vote recommended for, what was the climate there? I mean,
I guess I never, Councilman, I never talked to them individually on that they were for it. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of discussion that I can remember. There was some. And Kevin was there and he spoke to the same stuff he's speaking to here.
I don't believe there was anybody else. There was, the only testimony was for the application. There was no folks there or letters that I recollect that were in opposition to the.
I have a question. Divots was mentioned before, and I guess I would see there's some similar circumstances here. I wonder what is the zoning area for divots and how, is that a conditional use permit basis for their liquor sales?
No, Councilman, they're commercial there and there is no, they don't use any special use permits there.
what's the zoning there?
C3.
C3?
That's fine.
To address why nothing was spoken at the Planning Commission, I was there that morning, but the Stanton counties did not receive a notice of hearing. And the only way I saw it was the night before when I read the last week's paper. And I did not have the authority to come and speak on Stanton County's behalf that morning. I was here in attendance. And yeah, so
Okay.
we
All
didn't
right.
receive
Thanks for the
additional notice.
clarification.
Say something else.
Sure.
One of the other things I think is really, I just gotta say, is that, and some of the elected officials may not even be aware of it, you may not have been on the council or otherwise aware of it. You know, the city of Norfolk and Stanton counties had a great relationship with some zoning issues. One of the things that we've done, I think it's out on the far side, the eastern edge of Woodland Park, where we always talk about a 2-mile jurisdiction. There's a provision in the statutes where Stanton County has actually given some of what would be the 2-mile area over to Madison County so that that entire area is zoned properly or zoned consistently throughout there so that it doesn't cut through a portion of Woodland Park. Kind of a neat thing as far as the relationship between the county board and the city of Norfolk in regard to that. And I just wanted to note that has been done, and I think it's worked pretty well in that regard as you've worked through these things with the Stanton County people before.
Okay. Thanks, Clint.
So I would have a question. If you didn't receive a notice of the hearing, how could the planning commission properly do their job if there wasn't, if that notice were not sent out?
I don't think that they're required to give Stanton County or Madison County.
What did you say, Dennis? I'm sorry.
The notice provisions only require that property owners within 300 feet are notified. Other political subdivisions don't get notices of
So it would have been in our
zoning-type
Norfolk
activities.
paper,
Whether
but not
you're in,
necessarily anywhere else.
right, I mean,
Okay.
the school board doesn't get a notice, Madison County doesn't get a notice, Stanton County doesn't get a notice, NRDs, regardless of where these things may fall.
Okay.
Mayor and council, I'll respond to that too, Dennis. We typically do always, John Johnson and Lane, we send them and they send us theirs. Even though it may not be in our district, but it's a courtesy thing between zoning officials. So we typically do. So how that got missed, Lane, I apologize. Okay. Appreciate it.
I do have one final comment in that the ordinance that's in the agenda packet does have property that is outside of the city's zoning area. Now, I stand corrected on my comment earlier, Trent.
kind of showed me that I wasn't following the lines correctly. But, so the I-1 that you're seeing up here is in the zoning jurisdiction, but the piece that would be immediately south of it that's included in the legal description is not.
Is that in the blue line, Dennis?
Would be in that blue line, yeah, it's in that.
The blue line underneath the red line?
Right, and that blue line, I think Trent said, is part of the cup that Stanton County has conceded to. Looks like a corner of the racetrack gets into that particular area.
That's correct. That, right where you have it pointed there, Dennis, that is Stanton County's area. Our line goes north, and then the red line hides it where it cuts back to the east and then back up again and then back, you know.
All right. Further discussion, council, before what I'm going to do is close this public hearing then, and we're going to move to, we need to take a motion off of the table of ordinance number 5297 with a request amending the zoning designation from A Ag to I1 Light Industrial. Okay. Do you have a? Yeah. Planning Commission report for us. My fault, Beth.
The Norfolk Planning Commission held a public hearing at the request of Kevin Signer Off-Road Ranch for a zone change from A Agricultural District to I-1 Light Industrial District at 2900 Old Highway 8. Off-Road Ranch operates as a racetrack, recreational vehicle park, and concert venue. They hold 3 conditional use permits to operate these functions. They want to establish a bar and grill at the site and have applied for a liquor license. In the past, they have operated under a special designated liquor licenses for the functions. There was no one in opposition in attendance at the Planning Commission hearing, and the Planning Commission voted 8-0 to recommend approval of the zone change.
All right. And with that said, then, with this public hearing being closed, I'm looking for a motion to take off the table certainly ordinance number 5297, as I gave to you before, which was tabled at the June 16th, 2014 City Council meeting.
I'll make a motion to take it off the table, Your Honor.
Second.
All right, with that, please vote.
Voting in favor of taking the ordinance off the table.
Turn it the other way once, Jim, just for, see if it works the other way.
I know yes on it.
Okay.
Okay.
Somebody's playing a trick on you, Jim.
Okay. All council persons voting in the affirmative.
All right. So at this, huh?
Threw me.
Yeah, you did. So with that, we're going to look for consideration of ordinance 5297, amending. I need a motion to amend from Ag to I-1. Is there such a motion?
I'll make the motion, Your Honor.
All right. Is there further discussion to be had here? I do think there probably is a reading into the minutes that needs to note that prior, the fact that it's before us that the Planning Commission, which we usually like to take a lead and certainly give consideration to what they have done, without any in attendance at that pre-planning meeting or Planning Commission meeting, I guess I would say, that we need to note normally through courtesy, the city of Norfolk has taken it upon themselves to make sure you are aware of it and to give opportunity for you to be there. This did not happen this time, and so again, I just want to clarify that it's, while we certainly always look to the Planning Commission to be representation for us and give us some guidance, we certainly have heard many this evening that are speaking to this probably and wished they would have been here maybe earlier at the Planning Commission. So That being said, that would be my input on this. Any other discussion before we go forward? Hearing none, then do we have a short title, Beth?
An ordinance of the City of Norfolk, Madison County, Nebraska, amending the zoning district map of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska, providing when this ordinance shall be in full force and effect, and providing for publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form.
With that, please vote.
Voting in favor of the ordinance, councilpersons Granquist, Clausen, Moaning, Faust, and File. Voting against the ordinance, Merrill and Clausen.
Mayor Lang.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Merrill and
We need to get it, I can't
see over there.
I know. Okay. So
Getting
with,
this counted.
pardon me?
So I'm getting this counted. 2, 3, 4, 5.
Are we right?
So,
Okay, so with that,
passes on straight.
all right, so with that.
Ordinance 5297 carries on first reading.
Very good, all right. We're going to move then on to the regular agenda and look for consideration of approval of forwarding a letter of no recommendation to the Nebraska Liquor Control Commission on a Class D liquor license application for Riverside Convenience, doing business as Riverside Convenience, 1100 Riverside Boulevard, and the manager application of Amy Carter.
Your Honor, I will be abstaining from this vote.
Councilman Faust to abstain.
I move that we forward the aforementioned letter.
Second that.
All right, my motion with a second. Is there any discussion at all? If not, please vote.
All council members voting in the affirmative. Councilman Faust abstaining. Motion carries.
All right. Next is consideration of approval for city staff to enter into comprehensive plan update and industrial site identification analysis contract negotiations with Olson Associates for an amount not to exceed $100,000. I'm looking for Commissioner.
I'll make the motion, Your Honor.
Second that, Your Honor.
Okay, a motion with a second. Any discussion here by the council? Anything you want to address on this, Shane? Maybe give an explanation of?
Yes, Your Honor. Just briefly, staff and elected officials and Plan Commission subcommittee's been working on trying to select a consultant to help us with our comprehensive plan update, something that's required by statute to update periodically, and also we got an energy code component of the comprehensive plan that we need to adopt. Hopefully by December 31st, but it'll probably bleed into the next year as long as we're under process. I think we're square with the system. So the staff has met and elected official subcommittee and the planning commission subcommittee met and interviewed the consultants and are recommending that we sit down with Olson and Associates and do a further negotiation, and that's what the permission is for tonight with your blessing.
Okay. Courtney, do you have anything you want to add to that at all? What it means for you and?
Sure. Courtney Dentlinger, City of Norfolk Economic Development Director. In addition to the comprehensive plan update, we asked in the RFP for proposals for industrial site identification. So this would be an analysis, not just of our zoning jurisdiction within the City of Norfolk, but of the county as a whole. And what we're asking the consultant to do is to come in and help us identify which sites would be most reasonable for us to proceed with master planning and marketing for industrial purposes from a very objective standpoint. And so that'll be very helpful from business recruitment perspective and helping existing businesses who want to expand and find properties with the appropriate zoning, no floodplain issues, and infrastructure in place.
Okay. Any questions for Courtney at all?
Do you know, has Olson worked on a comprehensive plan with the city of Norfolk in the past? Have they partnered with us before?
The last time we did it roughly 13, 14 years ago, I guess, I don't remember the exact time, RDG out of Omaha did our comprehensive plan update. Olson does have experience with comprehensive plans and industrial site selection, identification, considerable experience. All the firms that we interviewed had considerable experience with both. Some were a little heavier in one and a little lighter in the other, and as you went through the process, you seen that Olson would fit our needs as a community the best. We felt as a committee recommendation. And Councilman Lange, maybe you have something to add to that.
Yeah, I guess I would advise everybody that I sat not only on the interview process, but also sat in on the formal discussion and recommendation as it came out of the body that way. And also reviewed their, when you have an RFP for this type of work, you ask for submittals, and they provide proposals along with, on this one, there were actual estimated dollar amounts and broken down in such a manner that we're able to discern, what kind of activities and what they were proposing on that. And one of the things is I reviewed it here when we got to this ability for staff to negotiate with them is if you look in the industrial area and also underneath the comprehensive plan area, I think there's some duplication in the processes that they were addressing that way, and that there are some dollar savings in that. If you go back and look last September when we adopted the budget, we had $75,000 in for this comprehensive plan study. I don't believe that at that point in time that we were talking about an industrial review also. My notes don't show that, and the budgetary notes don't show that. So the proposal that they're submitting, though it exceeds the budgetary amount of $75,000, also exceeds the scope of the work at that point in time. So I look at what each of them provided, and in my mind, I felt Olson's probably is going to provide us the best workable and usable document in the end, and I think it's going to be our best spent money that way too, because currently I guess I feel that we struggle with our current comprehensive plan. One, because of the age of it, and two, because of the intrinsic difficulties of it. So.
That's accurate. And the $75,000 that identified in the budget last year was for the comprehensive plan update. Also, Courtney then, through the budget year, through her work with the Economic Development Council, really wanted to look at the identification of sites county-wide, not just in Norfolk, but in the whole Madison County-wide, and she had available funds, $25,000 additional funds for a total budget of $100,000 to make those two come together. And also, what Councilman Lange, at least from staff's viewpoint, is right on the money as far as the utilization of your base plan. A comprehensive plan is just that for your community. Ideally, you have a base plan there, and that it kind of holds, again, ideally, it holds the council, the community, and the developers, and everybody kind of accountable to what we see as a growth pattern for the city of Norfolk going forward. Sometimes comprehensive plan, and I think in my opinion anyway, sometimes comprehensive plans get done and then they get shelved and they come out and they're only used as a shield and a sword, or shield or a sword, and that's unfortunate. If ideally we'd use it as just that, a planning tool that helps us establish a baseline and helps us project our future growth as a community. And that's what we hope this process will bring to us. We hope that there's a lot of public input. There will be plenty of opportunity for public input, and if we get that all to gel just right, we'll have a document that'll serve our community for a long time.
I just wanted to clarify Councilman Lange's comment that wasn't in the budget previously because we planned to use LB 840 funds for this process, and then we found a very important use for LB 840 funds. So we carved out dollars out of the budget to make sure we had that for the industrial site planning side of it and added that into the RFP.
Appreciate that, Courtney. And Jim, I appreciate your efforts on this too. Thank you very much. From my standpoint, it certainly pays to have great eyes on top of those kind of things, and certainly you bring that to this, so I appreciate it. With that being said, are we ready to vote? Please do.
All council members voting in the affirmative. Motion carries.
Okay, next is consideration of Resolution 2014-19 approving the final plat and the accompanying subdivision agreement for Country Club Estates 3rd Edition. This resolution was tabled at June 16, 2014 City Council meeting. So first, I'm going to look for a motion to take Resolution 2014-19 off of the table.
I'll make the motion, Your Honor.
Second.
With a second, please vote.
All council members voting in the affirmative.
So now, we're going to talk about Resolution 2014-19, approving the final plat. Is this you, Trent?
Yes, Mayor and Council. First, I'd like to point out the agenda packet is showing a different plat than what was supposed to be in there. So that was accidentally placed. We had looked at a couple of them, and I will pass out the differences. It involves removing a easement. There was a April version of this plat and then a May 12th version, and the April version got placed instead of the May version. So I'll give that to you, and it'll show you the difference.
Trent, I passed them out already.
Do you already have that?
I passed them out, yeah.
Yeah, this is it.
Yeah, I already talked to David Paul, you're aware, the easement was removed at your request. You want me to keep going, Mayor?
Yep,
All
yep,
right.
you keep going. I'm looking to you. You hide behind that over there, Trent.
All
I'm
right,
gonna
we
move-
got that.
I'm going to move
So
you over
page
here.
57, that's page 57 in the agenda packet, enclosure 20. That's incorrectly shown. The plat that you have is dated May 12th, and it is the correct plat, which was voted on and approved by the Planning Commission on a 7-1 vote, with the removal of that easement as it's shown there, so.
All right. Pardon me? Are we good?
Yeah, the other portion of that is that with the May version of that is consistent, the May version, the picture is consistent with the grading provisions that are in the subdivision agreement that is before the council as part of this resolution, correct, Trent?
Yes, that's correct.
So everything's square for you to, wait a minute.
Pardon me? I have heard this voice before. Come forth, my friend.
I just have to get up and stretch for a minute. I've been sitting there for an hour and a half.
Speak your name, will you?
Again, Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Johnson.
There's a provision in the subdivision agreement, in the grading section, that talks about after lot, which lot is it, Dennis?
2.
After lot 2's done, you're going to erase, you're gonna get rid of the existing easement, drainage easement, and you're gonna grant a new one when the smoke clears. Is that not correct?
Paragraph 2 and then what's on the screen in front of you?
Basically, I think I haven't read it for a while.
Right here.
The time and development. They will grant necessary.
But basically, what I think we're saying is that we won't, the April drawing that accidentally got on there depicts where the channel actually is today. But the grading provision basically said that we wouldn't do anything to impact that channel until we had a plan submitted to the city by a registered engineer and approved by the city to relocate the easement, relocate the actual drainage, at which time we would give an easement to the city where the new drainage actually goes. Right now, we don't know where it is, or where it will.
So it's not shown on the May plat,
No, no.
but it will be when development actually occurs
Yeah.
and building occurs. I think we're saying the same.
Is that what you said when I started yelling?
That's what I meant to say, but I was just trying to say it in such a way that you get up.
Then okay. Thank you. Okay, now my knees
Trying to
are
help
sore and
you.
I have to sit back down.
All right, so are we all kosher here with Dennis? Everybody in agreement? Because, okay. All right, then I would say, pardon me?
Go ahead.
We are on drainage.
We are on.
We're kosher on drainage.
We're kosher. There were, if you go back
Yeah,
to
let's-
last time, there were 4 items.
Right, two of which we were all okay with.
Yes, and drainage was one of those.
Drainage was one of the 2.
Okay, so we're still just
We're
two.
still okay.
Take it away, Dennis. What are we looking for here now?
Actually, we're looking for an amendment to the subdivision agreement that is included in the agenda packet that would add the following sentence to the last paragraph of the general conditions. For Lot 2, the developers agree that they will pay a connection fee provided for in the Norfolk City Code at the time of connection. The connection fee is currently addressed in Section 26-11 of the Norfolk City Code. The parties agree that Lot 1 has previously paid a water assessment. There will be no cost to the city for water service in the addition.
Your Honor, I would move that we amend the subdivision agreement, which is being considered pursuant to resolution number 2014-19.
All right, there's a motion. Do I have a second?
I would second that, Your Honor.
Okay, we have a motion with a second. Now, are we able to vote on just that? Am I right there, Beth?
The amendment.
Right, amendment of, so, right, okay. So are we ready to vote? All right,
Discussion.
so,
Discussion.
pardon me, discussion?
Okay. And again, I think when we talked about it last time, this was not part of it, and as I maintained at that time, if this were a new addition that, or an addition that, and we were running water on by it, that the water would be assessed to this property. And I think this is only fair, not only for this property, but for all the other properties in town that get developed that way, so.
Any other discussion or comments? All right. Ma'am, Mr. Johnson?
Is that language that I was just given, that's what you're proposing to put in the subdivision?
We're amending it by adding the language that was, the developer agrees that they will pay a connection fee provided for,
Okay,
right, in the subdivision agreement.
okay.
Are we all on the same page here?
Well, we still don't think that your code, the way it's written, authorizes that, but I just wanted to clarify if that's what you were thinking on this.
Yes.
So,
We're all in agreement there, council? Everybody understand what we're,
Second is,
yeah, it's been,
Say something before you vote on it.
okay, Paul? Please understand.
As I said at the last meeting, your definition does not say for connection to the water, if you read it.
I tell you what, Paul, I think there's been a lot of time and effort that's been put into this, and I believe the fact that this is exactly what we've been doing in the past, we've asked city staff to pull for us, and I get that, and,
Regardless, I'm just saying it does not say for
Okay.
connection to.
okay. I understand that, and I think as far as the staff, if that's something we need to take a look at and make better clarification, but I do believe that certainly we're not handling this any different than any other previous.
Could be that you were wrong in the past, possibly.
Well, I don't know that we were
I could be
wrong.
right. I could be right.
Paul, I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying if we can make better clarification, but I will tell you that we believe that it is correct in what it is that we are asking of you. No different than anyone else, Paul. No different.
Well, I would ask you this, then, this piece of property that I'm buying
Yes, sir?
is part of a whole piece that we are splitting off. We're splitting off as Lot 1, Lot 2. Lot 2 being the bigger portion of this, I'm guessing 3 acres possibly. When this line isn't there yet, the 130 foot that they're retaining, correct? Wait, that's what we're doing now is the final plat? Creating that lot line, or that new lot line where the village retains 130 feet there.
Okay.
But Lot 2 was a portion of that, and when it was all one piece, Lot 2 did pay water and sewer on Country Club Road. So now you're asking me to not only pay water and sewer on Country Club Road, but you're asking me to pay water and sewer on Benjamin Avenue. So I'm paying 2 assessments, and I don't think that's right.
Is that a true statement?
He's creating an additional lot that will need to have a separate water and sewer service to it. Typically, we assess back 200-300 feet off of a main, because that's about how deep lots are. The balance of the property would be, what you would look at, would have sewer and water served to it from some other direction. It's consistent with what we've done on many, many other occasions.
You get assessed twice. You're only hooking up to 1, but you're paid for 2. I paid for on Country Club Road through the purchase of this property when it was the whole piece. Now you're asking me to pay again for Benjamin Avenue.
You have a new lot, Paul?
We're creating a new area.
Is it a developable lot? Are you gonna develop it?
There's 3 lots. I don't know. Somebody tell me what the code is. Can you charge a citizen twice when he's only gonna hook up once?
Give me a better example, one that, me as a residential. Are you saying that if I have a residential lot that is, now let's say I have 3 acres, and I decide to cut those, has there been just one connection to my 3 acres, and now creating 2 is going to make for 2 acres that are going to be assessed again? Is that what he's saying? Guys, I'm not good at this, so I'm asking for some help to better understand.
Yeah, I'm looking for a map I can't find.
Am I confusing the issue here more? Maybe?
Maybe so,
You know,
Mayor.
I'm trying to take a piece of, as called a scrub piece of property, improve it, make it better, reinvest money in the community, and I'm getting charged on both sides here for the water park.
I think Dennis, did you say something? I think that Dennis may have already answered this question. When you assess property, you assess it, not the entire piece. I mean, and I don't know what this lot was before, but Dennis talked about going back a portion of the depth, maybe a couple hundred feet or whatever. What we're talking about here, if I'm looking at this properly, on the west side, you're talking about 130 plus, you're talking about 130 plus 347 feet. The total depth of that, which is now 2 lots, is some 400 and almost 500 feet. So you're putting another, you're having 2 lots, there's another access that's coming from there.
What I just put up is a map of the water assessment district that was done that they didn't pay for. But if you look over on the left side of the document, you can see there's 250 feet on both north and south of Benjamin Avenue that weren't included in that assessment district?
Slow down.
That's because they paid an assessment along Riverside Boulevard.
Where's that at, Dennis?
Put your pointer on.
Right there.
Okay.
There's 250 on each side, and those would have been assessed off of Riverside. When they came down Benjamin, they didn't reassess those again, but they did the balance of the lot.
No, they didn't assess that
Right.
250
But
foot
they
again,
did.
but they did assess
They
The
did
balance
assess the
of-
rest of the balance of the lots.
Right.
another
Okay.
portion of the lot.
Got it.
Another portion of the lot. And you can
Question.
look and see that as they assessed back, they didn't go back, they went back that 250 feet or so as they went along Benjamin Avenue.
Who paid the assessment on the 200 feet?
Right there, nobody. That's the,
Who paid for the water line in front of it?
it's all part of the district. The city had costs in this district.
By the property owner?
I don't know, there isn't good enough records.
So we don't know at this point whether the city paid for it or whether it was absorbed by all of the landowners.
What section 2611 says is that every property has to pay $5 per foot to connect to the utility lines.
It doesn't say $5 per foot.
Well, what it really
Where does
says,
it say $5?
here, Paul, what it says is 26-11B says, if you're gonna connect, you're going to pay the fee that's set forth in section 2-5 of the code. It used to say in 2611B that it was 5 foot. If you go to section 2-5, where all of those fees are, and which Dennis has highlighted there, it's very clear that 2611B has a $5 fee associated with it.
Where's 2611? Yeah, but it's for extension or alteration.
No, it's not. No, the
That's what it
code.
says.
You need to read this, Paul, without looking at the description of the fee in 2-5 that you're focusing on, doesn't mean anything. The code says, the code says 26-11 says there's a fee provided in 2-5. When you go then to 2-5 and you look at where 2611 is, it says that fee is $5. Whether you call it a fee for connection or alteration or whatever, it doesn't matter.
Well, words do matter. I'm just saying that your sewer definition does say connection to, the water does not say connection to. And above your water that you're talking about, it says, there's a $30 fee for turn-on fee, and there's a $95 fee for a connection fee.
Paul,
I have to have a connection before I can.
Every one of those description of fees was put in there in an effort to give a couple of word handle to try to show people what they are. Could there be improvements made to those? Probably. And we could probably make an improvement that you would say that helps you, and the next person would say that doesn't help me so much.
I think
And
it
so-
would be very clear if it just said connection to, but it doesn't.
Well, but it's very clear that it's $5 according to the way
Or
the
an
code is.
extension or alteration.
No, for 2611B says,
I agree.
2611B says you can't connect unless you pay the
Paul, we
fee
need
in
to move
2-5.
forward, and we want to move forward for you.
It
I think
pays
it's,
the fee as set forth in 2-5. 2611 does not say anything about a $5 fee. It refers you to section 2.5 to find out what the fee is.
In section 2.5, where the reference for 2611B says $5.
And we've done this, Mayor, Council, this has been our history, we've done it, we just recently done it, you'll see in your packet, we just recently done it this year, in fact, on the railroad right-of-way on Queen City Boulevard, the same type of situation, there's been other examples, that's been our history, we're talking about, you know, simply understanding of definitions and trying to make what appears to be a point of some sort that maybe our code isn't quite clear enough. Can we make improvements? Absolutely, we can make improvements to clarity. We can always make improvements to clarity on the code, I suppose. And I agree with what our city attorney said, anyone can interpret that or make an argument that it's not quite clear enough, no matter what change we have in it. So at the end of the day, that's the history that you've had as a community. So, I mean, I understand that Paul doesn't like that and wants to argue about the clarity of it.
Not
But your
arguing.
history is clear, and what you've done to other constituents is clear.
So my recommendation is, Paul, let's move forward. And we,
I'm
and
telling
we,
you, it doesn't say that, so.
Okay,
You
I-
can tell me all you want, but it does not say connection to, so. Now,
Well-
I'd also like a clarification then on the, how many assessments do I have to pay? I've paid on Country Club Road, and you're asking me now to pay again on Benjamin Avenue then with these fees.
Yes.
I don't think you have to pay 2 assessments for one hookup.
I don't know.
There-
I don't understand all this hookup issues. It would seem to me if you're on 2 different streets, you probably are going to have 2 different hookups. I don't know. Am I making a wrong assumption there?
That's,
You're absolutely correct. There'll be a connection for Lot 1 onto Country Club Road. There'll be a connection for Lot 2 onto Benjamin Avenue. It's not due and payable until he makes the connection. If he never makes the connection, he never makes the payment.
Well, I understand that. I'm saying I've already made in the payment on the water line on Country Club Road.
But a water line is not a connection.
Through the
Am I right
purchase
there?
of this property, I've paid
am I
an
wrong?
assessment.
I guess the,
Yeah.
what I'm seeing though is that lot 1,
Sewer up to
Lot-
Country Club Road, I'm not being assessed for that.
what I'm seeing is that lot 1 is benefiting from that fee that you paid for that initial connection. Now, lot 2 that's what this $5 per foot fee is when you connect on up. And that's,
I've already paid that.
no, you paid that for lot 1.
No, it was lot.
Then don't
was
split
not
it.
a Lot 1 before, it was all one tract.
Yeah, so,
Do you-
once
Paul.
you create 2 lots,
Paul, do you own Lot 1?
I don't know Lot 2 yet.
We'd sure like to help you get there. And honestly, Paul, we're not trying to be difficult with this.
I'm
We're
just asking
not,
the question, how many
okay.
assessments is the person required to pay?
1 per lot on this case.
And I paid through the purchase. Lot 2.
1 for Lot 1, 1 for Lot 2. And Lot 3 has got service already, so you paid the connection fee there.
And I paid the connection fee on Lot 2,
No?
as well as Lot 3.
Well, I think,
call
you
the
know,
question.
yeah, I think at this point, there's been plenty of discussion, and my understanding is that what we've been doing is correct. We're doing nothing different for you. So I'm going to call the question and ask for your vote. Okay, voting on the subdivision amendment as discussed.
Voting in favor of the amendment, Councilpersons Granquist, Langy, Moaning, Faust, File. Voting against it, Councilperson Clausen. Motion carries.
All right. Now we're ready to move on to, all right.
Would approve the plat and the subdivision.
All right.
As amended.
Okay, all right, so now we're looking at consideration of the resolution 2014-19, approving the final plat with
And you're approving the May plat,
okay,
the May plat and the subdivision amendment, the subdivision agreement as you just
it's
amended.
just amended. Okay, does everyone understand where we are with this? Okay, all right. With that, have we had plenty of discussion, and we're ready to vote?
We don't have a motion yet.
Yeah, we need a motion, I'm sorry, guys. We need a motion for Resolution 2014-19, approving the final plat and accompanying subdivision agreement with the amendment as was approved.
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
All right, a motion with a second. Plenty of discussion. So with that, please vote.
All council members voting in the affirmative.
All right, now we're ready to move on to consideration of approval of ordinance number 5299, amending section 22-164 of the city code to restrict parking on both sides of Queen City Boulevard from Georgia Avenue to 100 feet south of Georgia Avenue, and to limit the hours when parking is allowed on South 4th and 5th Street on Sundays where otherwise prohibited. I'm looking for a
Your Honor,
motion.
I'd move consideration of approval of ordinance 5299.
Second.
All right, we have a motion with a second. Any discussion on this? Chief?
Your Honor, members of the council, this ordinance basically seeks to achieve two things. The first is the police division has received some complaints about traffic getting congested at the intersection of Queen City Boulevard in Georgia on the south side of the intersection. Since there have been the new duplexes built along the west side, south of that intersection, we've had vehicles parking on Queen City Boulevard on the west side, close to that intersection. And what that does is when traffic gets heavy, when school gets out, when people are going to work, vehicles turning off of Georgia have a tough time getting through there when there's traffic waiting to pull onto Georgia facing north. It gets to be kind of a bottleneck. Traffic begins to back up. So we've gotten several complaints about that. We had a subcommittee meeting. We discussed this. We talked about various alternatives that we could use. And the recommendation that's presented to you tonight was to remove parking on both sides of the street for 100 feet south of the intersection. And hopefully that would allow enough room there for traffic to wait, northbound traffic to wait to make turns, but still allow enough room for vehicles turning off of Georgia to come down without creating that bottleneck. If you'll pass that tonight, we will implement that, we'll monitor it. If we continue to have some issues, then we'll have to look again at maybe what we could do, but we're hopeful that that would take care of that problem. The second part of the ordinance is to adjust a current ordinance we have right now on South 4th Street and on South 5th Streets, where those streets go by the churches located at those areas. Years and years ago, there was a request that we allow parking on Sunday mornings for church services, and also at those times when those churches might have funerals, to allow parking on those streets. There is no parking allowed on those. They're one-way streets, and so there was no parking allowed on that particular side of the street. I believe it was the west side on one street and the east side in the other street. They requested we allow this. We discussed it, and the council passed that. The way the ordinance was worded is that it would be allowed on Sundays as well as any time there was a funeral. We've encountered a situation now where about 2 o'clock in the morning, one early Sunday morning, we found a vehicle parked down there just across from the junior high school in a place where normally on late Saturday nights, early Sunday mornings, you would not find any vehicles parked there and would expect to find a vehicle parked there. That created some issues. We discussed it as a staff. We contacted the churches. Their concern is just the parking available those early Sunday mornings or late Sunday mornings when their churches are actually in service. And so this ordinance would seek to allow parking during those times as well as whenever they'd have a funeral, but it would not be the entire 24 hours of each Sunday, if that makes sense.
It makes sense to me.
All right.
I get this.
How do you monitor that?
How do we monitor that?
Yeah.
Well, it is basically anybody can park down there in those areas between those times on Sundays. And we're pretty much going to assume on a weekday, if there's cars parked all along there next to the church, we're going to assume, unless told otherwise, it's a funeral. If we receive a complaint, we'll check it out. But during those times, or when it appears to be a funeral, we will not do anything unless requested to do otherwise.
So it's kind of on a complaint basis.
Basically, it would be a complaint basis.
Okay.
I'll tell you what, I almost flunked driver's ed because of that intersection at Queen City Georgia, so I can appreciate the,
See the way you.
Is this his
appreciate this
request, Chief?
ordinance.
So this is a little late.
Might be a little late, yeah, it was a few years ago.
Well, maybe it'll help some others.
Any other questions?
Normally, the distance back from a stop sign's how far anyway on
I
parking?
believe it's about 40 feet.
40, so we're really only increasing it 60 feet,
Exactly.
which is basically 3 parallel parking stalls, so.
3 automobiles.
Our hope was to not be real onerous for the people that are actually going to be living there. But again, we wanted to try to keep the traffic moving through there. It's one of our main streets. It's used quite a bit by fire division for fire and rescue as they're going to that part of town from the main fire station there. And they definitely had a concern when they've got a large vehicle going up there, trying to be able to negotiate the intersection fairly quickly.
All right. Well explained. Any questions for him while we have him in front of us? All right. Thank you, sir. So any discussion at all? Further discussion, council? Then I'm going to ask for a short title.
An ordinance of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska to amend Section 24-164 of the official city code to restrict parking on Queen City Boulevard from Georgia Avenue to 100 feet south of Georgia Avenue, to limit the hours when parking is allowed on Sundays where otherwise prohibited, to provide when this ordinance shall be in full force and effect, and to provide for publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form.
All right. And with that, I would ask that you please vote.
All council members voting in the affirmative, ordinance 5299 carries on first reading.
Your Honor, I would move that we suspend the rules and pass this ordinance on second and third reading.
Second.
All right. We have a motion with a second to suspend the rules and pass on second and third. Any further discussion? If not, please vote.
All council members voting in the affirmative, ordinance 5299 carries on second and third.
All right. And finally, on the agenda here is consideration of approval of adding approximately 200 feet of trail in Tahazuka Park to Trails 2014-1 contract with TDK Construction Company for an approximate increase of $11,000. Do I
Mayor and
have,
Council, this.
do I have a
if you look on
motion
your-
for consideration, please?
So move, Your Honor.
All right. Motion in a second. Go ahead.
This item's in front of you, Mayor and Council. As you know, we just opened a beautiful extension of the Cowboy Trail in Tahazuka Park. And as you've seen the walkers and the bikers down there that enjoying the trail over the last week or so since we opened it, there's a piece missing there that really, at least in some folks' mind, would increase the accessibility, the bikeability, the access to that trail, and that's this 200-foot piece that's right at the head of the Cowboy Trail on the west side, the original head of the Cowboy Trail. So we just put it in front of you. You'd be using Keno dollars to revenues to do this little piece of trail. We do have a contract, as you know, with TDK Construction for the trail on the north side of town near the YMCA, which they're going to begin very, very soon. We reached out to TDK and asked them if they would honor their price per foot on that in their contract price. They said they would, and they also will start on this piece immediately, as in tomorrow, if with your approval, and get this piece done so the community can enjoy that the rest of the summer. And I know there's some events coming up that are going to access the Cowboy Trail, and it really is a nice piece because folks could ride their bike right onto from the blacktop of Tahazuka Road right onto this piece of concrete and then access the trail in full instead of riding across that bumpy old gravel parking lot there. So we just thought we'd throw it in front of you to see what you thought about it and get your approval or not.
Is that right next to the camper dump station?
Immediately east of it.
Yeah, it doesn't go over the top.
Wouldn't ride
of-
by really fast then, right?
Yeah, it is right east of there.
That's where you're changing the concrete. Move a little quicker.
Pick up speed there.
Yeah.
Any other questions or concerns or thoughts about it? If not, I'm going to ask that you please vote.
All council members voting in the affirmative.
All right. Seeing nothing else on the agenda, don't get too quick there, Councilman Faust. I am going to ask that while I have the opportunity here, I want to make sure that everyone is aware of, certainly there's been a lot of discussion. I'm going to tell you a lot of action on different Facebook pages and social media. It is what it is, but I want everyone to know what it is that we as elected officials have made as far as a statement. We have received several comments, certainly of concerns regarding Independence Day Parade, marked Obama Presidential Library. While the City of Norfolk permits the annual Odd Fellows 4th of July Parade, it does not sponsor nor coordinate it. No one from the City of Norfolk saw entries prior to. And while we recognize and respect certainly our citizens' differing political beliefs and their rights to express them freely, we are disappointed that the occasion of this family-friendly celebration of America's birth was used in a way that disparaged the office of the president. As an open and inclusive city, we have a responsibility to foster an environment of free exchange, but also one of civility, courtesy, and decency. We certainly are a community of people who work hard. We help our neighbors, we welcome newcomers, and we teach our kids the value of respect and responsibility. This incident and the controversy it caused do not reflect the character and the spirit of our city or our state, and we hope to demonstrate that to all who are open to giving us that opportunity. That statement was made and spread as far as we could get it to spread, folks, and if there was any way that we could take and change what has happened, I would be the first one out there leading. But I do want you to know, and I want all our citizens to know, that the gentleman, after our statement was made this morning, came forward and sat down and had conversation with us. Elected officials were there. There was great, the Odd Fellows had representation there, which I believe, it wasn't easy for him to come forward, but he did so. And I think he wanted it to be known that there was never any intent in the way that it has taken off, that there was never any prejudice or there was never any means for it to become the radical twist that seems to be placed on this. What he explained to us was that he saw this to be himself as a veteran, certainly with family, four in his family, I believe he shared with us, that were veterans as well. And his concern was to see himself as he sees himself in the future years without some help from the administration for the veterans that are in need, for better care. And truly, that is what he had hoped to be able, the message that he was looking for. You know, I would tell him he probably failed at his attempt at his, first political satire. And maybe, again, for some, I think it was understood. Others, it became a little bit different. But I admire him for coming forward and taking responsibility for the action that he felt was going to be demonstrated in a satirical way, if that's a word. I don't know if I'm saying that right. But, and again, I just want everyone to know that we had great conversation. Obviously, it's affected each and every one of us. This community is nothing but a community of strength. And it's going to take each and every one of us to make sure that the message that we're sending out there is one that things have not changed within this community of the people that we are. I just encourage you, when you're seeing some of your friends that are making comments out there, take opportunity to say, you know what? It's not going to change what we are or who we are here. We're going to still work very hard at making sure that we're open for business. We're open and we're welcoming of. We've reached out in every direction that we can. Shane, too, I'm going to let you speak to a conversation that you had this afternoon quickly.
Had many conversations, Mayor and Council, and I'm sure you have too, all of you have as well. And, it's unfortunate that sometimes the power of social media is just amazing, really. I mean, it's a wonderful tool, and it can be sometimes falsehoods can get portrayed in a rapid fashion, and it just was overwhelming, really, for our quiet little town here. But I will share a conversation. Actually, I had two gentlemen that called me. One gentleman was representing the NAACP, and we had a nice conversation about it. And he said, Shane, I've seen social media do the same things. And, you know, it's unfortunate that happens. I just want to make sure that, you know, we're not taking a step backwards as a country. And, you know, when I seen that float and seen the first initial picture of that float, that he said I was kind of thinking we were taking a step backwards. But after I explained the context of it and what the gentleman told us, that it was the owner of the float and the city's role in that of just permitting the parade and the freedom of speech issue, you know, he said he absolutely understood that and would love to come to town and have lunch with the mayor and myself and perhaps bring his mother. He said his mother worked here and she told him flat out that Norfolk's a wonderful town, and he said, I always respect my mother, and he appreciated the text of it, and that gentleman was just straightforward with us this afternoon. Then another gentleman called me, and another phone call I took on, and he was fiery mad about the float. He was from a Midwest town. He didn't give the state, he didn't give his name, but he also was a veteran, and I'm a veteran myself, and after we had a man-to-man, veteran-to-veteran talk about the context of the float, and he looked at a few more pictures of it, you know, he really cooled down, and he started to realize that perhaps it was a bit misleading at first. His initial guttural reaction to that was a bit off, and he appreciated the interaction and left the conversation very politely. So, you know, it's just unfortunate that those things happen. You know, maybe the context could have been better for this float. Perhaps it probably could have been better. And if you look at it just from one angle, it really I can see where the disparaging remarks could be coming from our president. And it's never to our president or to the presidential office, and that's not what we're about. I mean, we're not about that as a community. You know, I just would like to echo what the mayor said as far as sticking with the city of Norfolk. Do we have racism in the city of Norfolk? I suspect there's some racists in the city of Norfolk. I suspect there is. I suspect there's racists in every single community across the United States, unfortunately. But this really, from my heart, when I see all the facts and put them together and listen to all the discussions from people that are interested in our community, you can see that this really wasn't meant to be that way. So I hope everybody can take a deep breath and try to appreciate satirical parade entries as they are, as you see in the paper oftentimes as they are across the United States. So,
All that being said, boy, what a lesson in social media. With that, we are adjourned.